Our 2011 Willie Duramax diesel, man, this thing's cranking out 170,000 miles so far without even flinching.
Yeah, man, they're tough trucks, but I will tell you, our buddy Kev told us about it, and it's really simple. He starts it, dies, boom, dies, boom, dies, and it's always in the morning. So
Yeah,
what
it
does
seems
that
to
tell
get
us?
worse the longer it's been sitting, right?
So that tells us some kind of pressure is bleeding off in the fuel system. We think we have that one. Well, at least an idea where to go with that, and that's going to be right in here.
Yeah, now these trucks come with a fuel filter system for debris, but also for separating out moisture content, right? And you know, every now and then you'll get a hiccup, so that's one of the first places we're gonna check. So we're gonna dive into that thing. Let us grab some tools. You can't see it until we pull some stuff out of the way, so stick around for that.
So there, it's out. You can see, I think this is our problem, but this is a primer. We have a bleeder screw here, water plug, right? Water sensor, and then a plug in here. I'll blow this whole thing apart. We have a whole kit from Merchant Automotive. They really specialize in Duramax, just about anything you could ever need for Duramax. And this kit, some things I really like. You get the additive, you get new fuel filter, you get all the O-rings for the kit, bleeder screw, new water plug, which is really cool because they made it accessible with a 3/8 ratchet. I'll show you that in a second. So I'll get this blown apart, cleaned up, and show you how all of this from Merchant Automotive goes in here and helps our leak out. Okay, so now we have our filter head kind of blown apart. I'll show you all how it goes back together. Really simple, really easy. Just take a little patience, grab you a Torx 20, and you'll be set. And a little cup of oil. Why? Well, because a lot of these O-rings and gaskets, they go on a lot easier and seal a lot better when you have a little bit of oil, and they don't get torn when you first torque them down. Now that being said, here's the first part, and I believe the culprit. I clean this guy up, okay? And these are important. There's a couple gaskets here, and you want to make sure that the first one you put on, this open area, this exposed area here, lip if you will, is on the bottom towards the flare, okay? And then the second one you want to put on is facing upward, all right? So, real simple, real easy. And like I said, always good to have a little bit of oil so you can at least lubricate it, and that way when you put it back together, it won't pinch, fight you, and so forth. So that being said, put your spring back in. We got our O-ring in place. I'm gonna slide this guy down and really just take a minute and kind of finesse it. You want this thing to seat nice and snug. Put our primer unit back on top. It goes down, you can hear it kind of building pressure. You know, you can self-check these things when you're done, but you can hear it making pressure right there. That's awesome. So a couple more turns, get this primer snug down. So now this primer is going to get the fuel, because these don't have lift pumps, up to the filter, okay? Now let's get a good seal on that one. You flip it over. Another noteworthy thing is these guys here, they have O-rings, but they're not serviceable. So really don't want to mess with those, don't want to take those out, okay? One more spring, ball check valve, so drop this in here, okay? I've already put the O-ring on this one. Again, just a little dab of oil around it to help it seat. Put this, and here's another little clue. So it's got a little indentation here in your tooth to hold it, so make sure you're fighting the right direction. Give you a hassle if you try to do it the other way. And I've got a new pilot screw. A lot of times people find out that those screws, they get worn out, they get sort of, you know, tore up from taking them on and off. So with this Merchant Automotive kit, you get a whole new pilot screw that's metal. Won't wear and tear like the old plastic one. And with that, you're good. So you got that piece, your ball check valve, your primer, your new pilot screw, and you got it rebuilt. It's that simple. Now, Kevin's gonna go all Picasso on you on the board and explain this entire fuel system. I was mentioning earlier, it didn't have a lift pump. Well, that makes this key, this whole priming unit key. Kevin's gonna show you that on the board.
Okay, so why do we even need this filter head assembly? What is it doing for us? Well, let's look at the heart of the whole fuel system. Now up in the engine block area in the valley, you've got this Bosch CP 4.2 pump. Now a PFI engine, you know, that pump's putting out 55, 85 PSI. This guy right here, going to the injectors, 29,000 PSI at peak, right? Well, we gotta feed this thing. So on the high side, we have a high pressure piston pump. It's gear driven on a shaft, you know, via the gear and the crank. So the crankshaft is driving these high pressures, but I gotta feed it. So on the back side of the pump, I have a low pressure gear pump, making sure I got plenty of fuel. And this is a picture of one of those pumps. 2 pistons here, right? The shaft is driving it. That's the high pressure side. On the back side, this cover plate has 2 gears, and that's the low pressure feed pump. Well, okay, I've got a pump here, but I've got a fuel tank like 5 miles back. These trucks are so long. So all I have on a perfect day, if I can get a perfect vacuum, is 0 PSI up here on this pump. Well, down here, all I can get is atmospheric pressure, or about 14, you know, 0.7, give or take. So that's all the pressure I have to feed all the way up here, all those bends and restrictions. Now I got to get through this filter. So this filter obviously is huge. It's filtering out debris, separating water. So I'll never get this system primed. So that's what this guy is up here. You prime the system, you're pulling the fuel up, you're filling up the filter, you're getting this guy charged, so you're ready to go. So any leaks in here is what's going to give you that sort of rundown, and you got this big air gap, and it'll take 2 or 3 batteries or 5 minutes to get this thing primed. This is your best friend. So Willie's going to get this thing buttoned up. We're going to take a break. We'll see you back in a minute.
Okay, welcome back. Now, as Kevin was demonstrating on the board earlier, your best friend in this entire fuel system is this, the primer. Now, I've got all the new seals from Merchant Automotive. I've got the new little plug here, all those gaskets and so forth, and a quick self-check. When you have this thing all back together, put your finger on the low side, and actually you can feel that suction. You can even hear it when you pull your finger off. Look at that, right? That's gonna get all that fuel, fill up all this volume of that pump. And another little thing you might wanna do while you have this entire system off is this spacer. A lot of guys find out it's difficult to get their hand around this fuel filter and get it twisting so you can turn it off. Well, this little adapter, if you will, slides just in the bolts, pulls it away from the block. Really simple, that way you can get your hand on it and get it loose. So I'm gonna get this guy installed, and then Kevin's gonna show you a really cool another filter system, which I think you guys are gonna find pretty handy.
Now these type of systems are hugely popular with over-the-road semis and high-mileage vehicles. And like this one, Franz Filters, it's a high-density bypass filter system, and you can see how dense the core is. Now if I were to put this in replacement of the OE, the pressure rise would be too high. I could never get all my oil to flow through it, but I can bypass a certain amount of oil using my stock filter to get the big chunks, like 15 microns. I can use this to filter down to 2 microns, a continuous stream, so I'm always cleaning and cleansing my oil, so it's always getting cleaner instead of dirtier. So think of that anywhere you want to put it that's convenient for you. So I found a nice spot up here that I like, and this would set up like so. Okay, now that's where my filtering is going to happen. Now how do I get there? Well, that's pretty easy. I've got a filter adapter, piece of cake. So here's my stock oil filter sitting up here, and I can unscrew it, and I can thread this on there, put it back on just like normal. Now I've got a high pressure feed that I can do that small amount of oil volume to my filter. Well, I've got a place for it to go back somewhere, and that happens to be here. So simple. It's your oil fill cap, right? Factory style, screws right on. I've got this quick release fitting on here, right? So if I need my hose out of the way, or I just clip it back on. So this just goes right into your valve cover where your oil fill cap is, and you're set. The rest of it's just running a few lines, and now once it's plumbed, well, I can save 3 or 4 oil changes in a given year, and that's 10 quarts a pop, plus I don't have my vehicle on a lift, I'm not paying any service fees, so it's huge. And on top of that, because I'm filtering out all that fine debris, it makes all my engine parts last longer. Got a couple of problems. We've already solved the fuel system problem.
Yes,
Thanks
indeed
to
we
Mr.
have,
Willie.
man. But this thing's got a hideous vibration under decent hard acceleration. So when you tip into it, lean into it,
Yeah.
thinking that's gonna get solved right up here.
Yeah, so you want to go ahead and check all your U-joints, right? We've got one in the front here by the transmission, one in the back.
Yep.
And I can feel right off the gate here that this guy's got that little bit of slop in
Yeah.
it. So definitely got to replace it, even if it's the problem or not. And we got a good solution for that one. So
Yes, we do.
We'll show you how to do it yourself and how to do it even better than the factory.
Man, stop wasting time talking.
All right, you got that in. I got this in. Let's get this thing out on the bed. Get on up here, muscles.
Yes.
All right, so this is the heart of a universal joint. You can swivel this way, you can swivel this way. Gives you that articulation, right, for the shaft to go through suspension motion, whatever.
Obviously, right?
But playing around with a little bit,
Crunchiness.
in my diagnosis, yeah, this is the most unhappy one of the four.
For sure. This is like Rice Krispies, snap, crackle, and pop every time you turn it.
Yeah, now this one here is even more unhappy. And you can see first how it works. So here you've got some sort of outer casing. Inside of there is a whole series of little roller bearings.
Needle bearings, yeah.
And if all the surfaces are machined just right, it spins on there just nicely. You get all that swivel motion. Well, look at this. It's no longer round anymore.
And you can even see on this side, I noticed when you were looking at it, look how hot it got. Just the heat on the cap coming through. It looks like literally somebody welded it on the inside.
So you can have serviceable and non-serviceable U-joints. So a lot of times you'll have a Zerk fitting somewhere on here.
Sure.
And you can squirt grease in there. And you can see these sort of cross-shaped drillings in there, and it'll squirt grease up and pack these full of grease, right? And you can push dirt out and stuff and really get these things lubricated.
Yeah, and this is why I like this brute force from SKF. Now, those passageways that he talks about, those things actually weaken the U-joint. Well, with SKF, they've kind of eliminated that whole journal or that passageway. All right, you have a lot thicker, a lot more meat, if you will.
Yeah, the nice thing is it's serviceable because you don't want your truck sitting in here not making you money, right? You can just give it a little squirt of grease every so many thousand miles, keep on rolling. So they've moved the grease fitting to the end here so they can still lubricate, but they've taken away this big stress concentration right here, so it make the whole part a lot stronger. But they also use high-strength, heat-treated steel.
And even the rubber on the outside.
Yeah, because you get a lot of applications where you're spending a lot of time either in salt and corrosive areas or in the mud and the dirt. So these are nitrile versus kind of a traditional cheaper rubber, so it's going to last for a whole lot longer time. So let's start to pop this guy apart, and we'll show you a couple methods on how to push this out and properly get one in. So close. Oh, look at that. Nice. Look at that. All right, so we got that clip out, so we can get the other side out, and then we can start pushing a little bit. So follow along with us.
Gotcha.
Ta-da. Now these cups here, they're pressed in both sides with a little bit of interference fit. Now you can use a hydraulic press and press this through. That's pretty nice too. Or your local shop, you can typically rent one of these for free or for a couple bucks.
Yeah.
And we can just run this guy down, press it out, push the other side, and we're halfway there.
Okay.
What do we got? What do we got?
Sweet.
Is it coming out? Yeah. All right. All right. Now that's what you call surgery with an impact gun.
Yes, exactly. And while you're performing surgery, always good to have some Scotch-Brite in there to clean up the limbs of your drive shaft.
Make sure you don't have any burrs or anything in the way. And you can see the old one versus the new U-joint. A lot more material in here. You can see the black oxide coating will keep it from corroding or any issues down the road. And they come pre-packed with grease and oiled nicely in the package so you get no rusting up. You're ready to install. So as soon as he gets this cleaned up, we'll start pressing it in just like we pressed it out. Get that thing on the lift, get back in the truck, and we'll see you back here in a minute. We're gonna take a break. Hey, welcome back. We are getting serious work done on our 2011 Duramax diesel, and we always go to the experts, Merchant Automotive. I mean, that is their specialty.
Yeah.
And they have everything you need for upgrades, maintenance, and some of that preventative maintenance.
Yeah, which is always the best option. So you can keep your truck out there on service calls, making money, and that's always the best case scenario.
Yeah.
And well, like we said, preventive maintenance. And here they have this tie rod sleeve, heavy duty, 303 stainless, super thick, because these are known for buckling. These tie rod sleeves right here, as you can tell from the factory, really thin. You hit a bump, you hit a curb, these things tend to buckle. They're inherently weak from the factory. And this, my friend, that will definitely support it.
Now, another great preventative drama component that Merchant Automotive sells is the rear transmission support bracket. Now, you can think of especially four-wheel drive, dropping off a rock or curb, huge impacts. This whole transfer case, the weight of it will end up cracking that transmission. So this is a great bracket that's super simple. It uses the factory bolts. and you can just slide this guy right up in here on the four-wheel drives. Again, a great preventative maintenance part. Now, we're gonna get this thing buttoned up and on the ground. We'll get that whole fuel system primed and started. We'll set it out in the parking lot, let it sit for a while, see how she does when we go to restart it.
All right, man, she's fired up, she's running. That's a bonus, right?
No stalls, no stalls.
Boom.
That's right.
All right, now the only way to test if that U-joint is functioning properly is hard acceleration.
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of wondering, what are you waiting for?
I got that right here.
Get on it,
yeah,
son.
man.
Yipper.
Much better.
Smooth like butter.
Nice, nice.
All right, well, we got our France bypass filter in there. We got our tie rod sleeves on there for safety. We got our vibration gone.
Nice.
We got our stall fix.
Dude, loving it.
We're done.
Another job well done.